All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And I have been going over the textbook AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. But I've taken a little bit of a detour, and we're going over and building our own app here, that being this Magic8Ball app. In the last lecture, or video, I put in our image, this is our start image, which shows the Magic8Ball. I put in a label, said ask your question below. I've got a text box so you can put in the question, and two buttons, a submit button and a reset button. All right. While this last video is still producing, but while it's been producing, I went and copied in. This was the 0.ping file, and I copied in the other 15, and I also copied in the MP3 file, which was that ta-da. All right, so again, in about 2 or 3 minutes, you're going to see that the first video will be finished. So I went over the blocks editor then and started to think about what I want to do. And I've used two global variables in this program. Increase the size here. All right, so I used two global variables, and one of them I called answers, and that's going to be the answer that appears. And the other one I called image number. All right, now I'm going to take those and I'm going to push them off to the side right now. And what I like to do is I like to write my initialize routine, all right, from my screen1.initialize. And I wanted to think about what do I want to do, all right, when I first do the initialization. Well, I want to load those images. We talked about this in an earlier lecture, that if you load the images ahead of time, you won't get that kind of, can't think of the right word right now, but kind of staticky, it's not the right word, but clunky kind of feeling while the things are loading. Okay, so what I did was I came in and said, what I want to do is I want to set my answers here. And I wanted to load in every one of these images. Well, again, we've learned this in previous lessons. If we want to load in a whole bunch of stuff, that should be a list. So we're going to do make a list. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to call it, we need 15 of these. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, gets kind of hard after a while, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whoops, 15. All right, so there's our 15 components that we have there. You can't see them all right now. There they are. Okay, so what I want to put in here, and I'll just bring in a text, is I want to put in 1.ping, 2.ping, because those are the names of the different components. All right, 1.png, and then I can start doing some duplicates. I'm going to have to manually come through here and do this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video while I put in these. All right, and I'm back. So I now have created a list with all 15 of those videos. I'm sorry, all 15 of those ping files, which represent the different answers for our Magic8Ball. The other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that when you actually started, all right, that the submit button was enabled, but that the reset button was disabled. There's nothing to reset because you're just starting. So I put that into my initialize also. All right, so I did a couple sets on my buttons. Now did I notice button submit? I spelled wrong. Okay, there's button submit. All right, so what I want to do is I want to set the enabled property on the submit button. it would be enabled by default, but just to be sure, I'm going to set that to true. All right, so that's the first thing I'm doing. And then I also want to come over to my reset button, and I want to find its enabled property. And I want to set that to false. So in my initialize routine, I have made a list with all 15 of the different ping files representing the different answers to my Magic8Ball. I've also enabled my submit button and disabled my reset button. Let's take a look. All right, and it doesn't look any different, but let's go back and do a reset connection. And then we'll do a connect emulator. And as you know, this takes a minute or so until it all loads. One of the other things I have to remember to do is to go back into the designer and associate the tada.mp3 file with my sound component. So I'm going to do that next so I don't forget to do it. I'm done now with the initialization stuff, so as soon as this comes up, and you can see it'll be up shortly. So as soon as that comes up, I'm going to collapse that particular method so that we're able to take a look at and see what else is going on here. So I'm collapsing the block. Okay. And let's go back to our designer and let's set our sound component. Let's set the source. All right. And I downloaded that one also to tada.mp3. Okay. So there it is. You can see I've got my submit and I've got my reset. And my reset is grayed out. Also, it says here, hint for text box. Why don't we put a hint in there? So let's go back into the designer. We are in the designer. Let's go to our text box and let's put in a hint. Ask the Magic8Ball a question here. Hit the submit button to see your answer. All right, kind of big, so let's take a look and see what that looks like in here. Ask the Magic8Ball a question. Well, I guess this would have to be bigger to show all of that. So we can do that. And one of the things that I had done earlier is I took this horizontal arrangement and I made the height fill parent. I don't like that anymore, so I'm going to make it automatic, which cuts it down. Let's go back into here and let's make the height of this, which we made 45 pixels. What if we double that, made it 90? Hopefully we'll have enough room for that. We do. In fact, it looks like we can make it about 125. And that's okay. So if we go back into the emulator and we look now you notice it's big enough that it says ask the Magic8Ball a question here, hit the submit button to see your answer. Of course, the submit doesn't do anything yet because we have not added that code. All right. So let's go back into our blocks editor. And we have now created our global variable called answers, another global variable that was called image number, and our initialize routine, which we just looked at, that made a list with all 15 of those images, enabled our submit button and disabled our reset button. And now that I look at it, two more things I want to do. First is we didn't initialize answers. So answers, let's set this to the empty string. And image number, well, we don't have any images yet, so it'll just be set to 0. All right, so we've got all that done. We're coming up on 10 minutes, and I think probably in about one more video I'll be able to finish this, but I'm going to stop right now, all right? And we'll continue on in just a couple minutes.